All right, well, let's go ahead and get started. So thank you all for joining. This is the 300 ways to buy, sell, and exchange real estate. We are on strategies 20 through 25. In this first cohort, we were just doing 25 strategies. I think maybe I'll take off a few weeks, or maybe we'll even wait until after summer just to see if we get some more people to join. And this section was fairly light as it relates to maybe technical details for a real estate transaction. And we actually covered 20 last time, so I guess it's 19 to 25. So we'll just talk through them, and maybe everybody could sort of share some tidbits or some insight. But strategy 21, he talks about broker cooperation. And I think his little image that he had posted on that strategy was important. And at the end of the day, for any of this stuff to work, you have to have two brokers that are able to work together, and probably, I think, as it relates to an exchange, to really think outside of the box and not just think of a transaction or the benefits of a transaction just being money. So I don't think there's too much to say about that. Teamwork. Verbal exchange offers don't work.
Let me make one comment on that last
Okay.
one.
Yeah.
I don't do any residential brokerage, and I don't know that this is particularly residential, but we have had this one mansion property listed, which is kind of residential office downtown. And I've got a co-broker on the listing side. And the buyer came in with no broker. And we asked if they wanted a broker. Does she have an attorney? And she did not want a broker. So we've got two listing brokers, no selling broker. My perception is that most listing agents, if they have a property for sale, would prefer that the buyer come in with no broker. Couple reasons for that. What's number one?
Commission.
Ding, 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 ding. What's number two?
Probably if they're representing the person as a customer, you figure that you could really win for your client.
Yeah, we're representing our client, not the buyer.
Yeah.
And if they don't have representation, we're not going to do anything immoral, dishonest, unethical, but they don't have protection on. And that's something they should have. I think that the residential business maybe thinks that way. Correct me if I'm wrong, because I don't do much of that. It's also in the commercial, normal for sale business. They would rather just talk to the customer, the buyer, the seller direct, and not have that other broker in the road. In exchanging, you will not do a transaction, hardly ever, without another broker. So it's a totally different focus, because you've got to have clients that understand what we do. Some of them do on their own just fine, but a lot of them need a broker there helping to find the benefits that they're seeking, and then go find them through the brokerage community, not through a property that's for sale on LoopNet. So without a broker, we don't do business.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, that makes sense. It's funny you mentioned that. My business partner, who him and I invest in real estate for his own properties, he loves the strategy of approaching a seller's broker, a listing broker, directly, and have him unrepresented. he's pretty savvy, of course, and his thought process is that the buyer's broker would have motivation to get his contract considered because there's an incentive for the broker to get a larger commission. And it's been interesting enough, this strategy seems to work fairly consistently with him. But this week, I think there was 2 or 3 brokers that pretty much one shared that I'm not going to reduce my negotiated commission so you can get a better deal. I'm going to get the full commission. And then another broker pretty much just told him that I'm not going to represent you like that. In both of these cases, neither of them seemed to go back to their client to see if that would be okay. But I thought it was maybe a little bit refreshing as an industry and as a profession that it wasn't all money driven, and there was still some separation, that they were still advocating for themselves, advocating for their clients, of course, and not necessarily just being driven to represent or work with him that way. So, but
Okay. Thank
yeah,
you.
yeah, I thought it was interesting. Anybody else have anything to share with that one?
I found that dealing with the commercial brokers is you're more likely to run into situations where they want to represent both sides or get, double in the commission. And I think it's more frequent in the residential business that we have a way of doing business and we're able to cooperate and get deals done. So that's just my experience.
Yeah. Well, thank you both. I just want to make a real quick introduction. We have Jeremy Wiley and we had Larry Yang join in. If I could be butchering the name, sorry about that.
No worries, man. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you for joining us. Since it's your first time participating, just to give you a little bit of a backdrop. So majority of us are out in Denver, Colorado. We are participate and are a part of an association called the Mile High Exchangers, which is an exchange organization looking at, and the TEDs, if I speak out of line, if I miss anything up, feel free to jump in. But it's looking at the benefits of the transferring, the exchange of real estate besides just money. And a gentleman by the name of Bob Still, who I guess comes from the historical background. Bob's in his 90s, and there's been a lot of people that created some of these models and strategies, but he put it together in a book called the 300 Ways to Buy, Sell, and Exchange Real Estate. And so we're going through and just looking at the strategies that he discusses. On this call, we have newer brokers, and I'll say that I think probably everybody on, we have newer brokers, we have very seasoned brokers, and everybody's just sort of chiming in and pitching in and sharing some things. Fortunately, we have Ted Blank and Ted Strawn on here, and they both have been doing this for a long time and are sharing some really good tidbits with us.
Thank you.
Yep, you're welcome. Very informal and just hopefully informative. So
Where's Larry from?
Yeah. Hi guys. I'm with KW Commercial in San Jose, California, here in Silicon Valley. I started my career in commercial in 2005 as in the multifamily. Working as a intern, going to a junior for like 2-3 years. For a guy that came from M&M, Marcus Millichap. 2009 hit. Then I went to work at Grubb & Ellis, did some industrial work. 2009 hit, took like 2-3 years off, went to financial planning at Merrill Lynch, and then came back to real estate in 2012. And then I added on residential to my kind of tool belt.
Hold on, everybody. The sun's. I have been.
Sorry.
Yeah, no worries. And I've been doing real estate since 2012 to now. Been doing a lot of selling a lot of industrial buildings, and I own a couple of multifamily myself.
Awesome. Thank you for the introduction.
Thank you.
Jeremy, do you want to say a few words?
Sure, I can say stuff. I'm Jeremy. I actually live in Arizona now. I'm a member of the Mile High Exchangers, though, and also NCE, and I know most of the people on the call.
Awesome. Thank you, Jeremy. And then Roman, I met a couple weeks ago. Roman, do you want to just introduce yourself real quick? Maybe we lost him. Well, let's continue on.
Okay. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, there you are.
Sorry, I was trying to unmute myself.
Oh, no worries.
So I'm Roman. I'm just recently started about a few months ago. I'm with Hoff and Lee Commercial Real Estate here in Denver. Prior to that, had no experience in real estate. Actually come from healthcare and barbering. So just trying to learn as much as I can. I think I went to the first Exchangers group meeting a couple of weeks ago. So it was very good, very, very informative. Get to meet a lot of great people. So just continuing to learn as much as I can, pretty much.
Awesome. Thank you.
Sure.
And Larry, there's likely an exchange group in your area as well. I encourage you to look them up. There's a lot of great opportunity there to learn and to be a part of some transactions that you probably wouldn't have otherwise.
Thank you.
So we're just going to jump in on strategy number 22. In these sections that I sent out, what I said is, and the ones that we're going to cover today, 21 through 25, these are more, I think, more business practice type of things. But he talks about verbal exchange offers don't work, and really having some way to write down, at least to discuss what you're talking about. And so he shares a little template. Prior to some of you joining, Ted had mentioned that he's going to be teaching consultation class that'll be coming up here in the Denver metro area. Well, we might have passed that time frame, but in October in Las Vegas. But maybe you can say something about this mini offer form, Ted. It's pretty basic in the example that he shared.
So that I don't dominate, I'll let Mr. Strawn talk about that. He totally gets that.
All right.
Hi, the mini offer is something that we use in the meetings and outside of the meetings as well. But it's a memo that is not binding at all, but at least gets the idea conveyed to the broker for the broker to take to the client to see if we could continue on to a hard contract. So it's a very simple deal. It's been in the works in the exchange business for decades now. And it is not a contract. It is simply a form that states what you want to do to see if there's enough interest to go to a hard contract.
Okay. And probably slightly different or maybe similar to like a letter of intent, or
Yeah,
I guess.
Yeah, I guess you could equate it with that. It's a fairly, it's a very simple and common form that we use in the exchange business. It's been, we haven't had so many face-to-face meetings in the past couple of years, but it's a very big piece of what we do in the exchange meetings. You listen to the person who's presenting the property, and then if you have interest, you write up mini offer and hand it to them right then. And I always recommend that you don't leave the meeting until you've spoken to that person that you wrote a mini to make sure that they get back to him. And it's just another good way of communicating and getting things done.
Okay.
I'm hoping we're going to get some more face-to-face, but boy, is it getting expensive to travel.
Yeah. Yeah, it sure is. Strategy number 23, counseling and control. I think I mentioned, I was talking to Ted Strawn when I got on the call, and I have been reading, Wendy shared this book with me, The Secrets of a Lucrative Real Estate Career. And it's by Charles Cheatham. And, you know, was part of the Exchange organization, and written, I think there's multiple books that he has written, and he talks about in the book about how he sort of changed his business practice. You know, he shares that he had a very lucrative real estate practice in California, had multiple agents working for him, but it was very stressful. And he shared that, you know, during sort of these ups and downs of the market, how stressful financially would get for him and his family. And he finally changed his model to go into more of a counseling practice, and really, instead of trying to sell something and trying to take every deal that was possible, changing his posture to maybe turn away some deals that didn't quite fit what he was how he was wanting to work. And so this strategy, I mean, sort of, it seemed like there was some synergy between what Bob is sharing in the book and what Charles was sharing in his book. But counseling is listening to what is being said and to what is being implied, advising potential clients, partners, or those you are doing business with, what the current market conditions permit you can make, etc. And then he shares that counseling is not getting picked up in the attributes of a parcel of land or a business opportunity, telling clients how great you are, etc. So I would say probably doing more question asking and more listening.
That's correct. This is Ted Blank's bailiwick, so I'm going to make a real quick comment and pass it over to Ted, because that's what he teaches. And counseling in real estate is the backbone of exchanging. If you don't know what your people are capable of or will do, it's very hard for you to make exchanges. So I highly recommend Ted Blank's class. And I've taken it more than once. I took Charles Chatham's class twice. And what this is the antithesis of selling. You're not trying to push something onto them. You're asking them questions and helping them understand what their situation is. And there's very often an aha moment during that process where they say, I get it. Now let's go do this. So Ted, take it over.
Thank you, Mr. Strawn. This group probably doesn't know that I was invited to my first marketing meeting by Mr. Strawn. That was a few years ago. And it changed how I do business. But counseling is not saying that the property is not important, because the property is the vehicle that we do business with, that we create supply and demand and motivation, etc., to acquire. But counseling is saying that equally important to the real estate, the benefits of the real estate, the lease, the deferred maintenance, the location, equally important to the real estate is the client. And that's where most brokers don't go down that path. They're not taught to go down that path. The big companies don't even want them to go down that path. It complicates things. It creates issues, all kinds of issues. When you're just listing and selling a piece of real estate, it's pretty simple. If you bring in an offer on a 500,000 listing for 500,000, you're going to have a closing and you're going to get a commission. An analogy I use in my course is if you have 3 identical properties, and I use a small office condo example, it could be 3 townhomes, 3 single families that are all next to each other in the same neighborhood, 3 industrial buildings. But if they are identical as far as their construction, their size, their occupancy, their quality of tenants, and you hired an appraiser, he should come up, she should come up with the same value on every one because they're quote identical. But if you don't look into the ownership, you aren't going to know what that client wants, needs, has the ability or the inability to do. So the first thing that most of us do is say, sit down, Mr. Client, tell me about your building. How much do you want for it? What's the lease? And that's okay. But if one client is a widow, her husband just died, and she does not want the management related to this building, is different than the next client who comes in, who is wealthy, who loves problem solving, who wants to build his or her net worth and their real estate portfolio. And that's different than the customer that might be institutional, that has very specific needs as to why they're selling. So counseling is looking past and through the real estate to the ownership and figuring out what the ownership needs to do, wants to do, has the ability to do. So that's the elevator speech. And we just went 30 floors. Thank you.
It was interesting. Bob had mentioned that he would pay for some of his clients to go to some of these exchanger classes on counseling. So I thought that was pretty interesting. I suppose if you have a client that's educated and it's a client that you work with often, having them understand that could create more opportunity. So he shared that he's done multiple deals with some of these people that went to these classes.
Yeah.
Anybody else have anything to say there?
Are you still doing those courses, Ted?
Yeah, we'll be doing one this late summer or fall here in Denver.
Okay.
I'm doing one nationally in Vegas at the national meeting in October, but I'll try to do one here in Denver before then.
Great.
Sounds good.
And everybody on the call will hear about it through our local marketing group. Let's see, who's not from local? Larry. If you stay connected with any of the national exchange groups, I don't know, do you go to the group out in San Diego, somewhere out there?
I'm in NorCal. I'm in San Jose by San Francisco.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's a group up there, but
Yeah, I haven't heard of it, but I'll look into it.
well, we'll get word to you if you stay hooked in with this entity,
Yep.
this group.
Thank you. Looking forward to it.
All right.
Good.
Yeah, I
Larry,
went. I was
I'm
gonna say,
sorry.
I was gonna say I went to the class and it was I didn't quite know. I wasn't hadn't spent a significant amount of time with the exchangers yet, but now after reading Bob's book and spending time with the group, I understand it much more. So I'm looking forward to taking it again as well.
Yeah,
No.
and this chapter here reminds me of, I just finished an audiobook called Gap Selling, and it talks a lot about vision selling and assessing the whole issue before you make a recommended solution and help people uncover that they may not know of their situation. So it goes, it relates a lot about this thing where it's a lot about consulting more and digging deeper and identifying things. So, thank you.
Can you give us the name of that book again?
Yeah, I'll show it to you. It's called Gap Selling.
GAP?
Yeah, GAP. Oh, yeah, GAP Selling.
Yep.
Author is named Keenan, Keenan. His style super resonates with me. I mean, that's what made me a top performer here in my area, and it's really just about connecting with people, seeing beyond the problem, and understanding the client situation. Consulting.
Thank you, Larry.
Thanks.
I'll put it in the chat for those.
Oh, that'd be great.
Audible's great. And if you just listen to it, just a snip, and then you probably like it.
What was the first name? Keenan.
Yeah, the author name is Keenan, Keenan. Yeah. I'm listening to the second. I'm listening to the second time. I tell them I just hired 2 guys who juniors to work for me, and I'm telling them that they must read that book. That's just the way
I
we
love
do
it. Yeah. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
All right, let's go on to the next strategy. We're breezing along. Strategy 24. Being flexible, benefits and exchange. Went too far. Yeah, it's pretty easy to understand how he says here the following situations have to do with geographical limitations. So, I mean, in the book, he talks about how he's done deals all over the world. And I think that's pretty amazing. Sometimes we think within our own local community, but if you're able to, think sort of outside the box, or even get the exposure, networking with other brokers and in other locations, I think that's where these opportunities come up. I shared with Ted earlier, I'm actually in Serbia, visiting my wife's family, and I'm trying to figure out some of the real estate stuff here. It's a little bit different from our own, but yeah, maybe there's a great opportunity here to start doing some exchanging in Serbia.
Yeah, what scares me when we do about like the geographical other international climates is not understanding the locality, and we can do the underwriting for the investment for the time being, but there's a lot of other factors like government issues or laws that change, or things that change in offices that could impact your client. And so when they say we exchange it for the time being, it looks good, but what if a few years down the line something happened, like for instance Vietnam, things to change and how it impacts our client, it worries me.
Yeah.
So that's why it's just, I don't feel like, okay, we have a due diligence of, looking for our client's best, a fiduciary responsibility, look out for our client's best interest. But when we don't really have an expert in that area, it scares me. That's just sharing that my thought.
Yeah.
Larry, I think 99% of people think exactly like you on that. It's hard to think out of your area internationally. If you took the international part of this away, I mean, like in Mexico, do you own the land or is it a land lease?
Land lease, yeah.
Yeah. So it's understanding that, but let's bring it back home. I'm in Denver. I have clients. Maybe they're not so much clients. I know of people who will not go from one side of Denver to the other.
Interesting.
They want to be in Aurora, nowhere else. They want to be in Lakewood. They want to be in Castle Rock. I think that's more what this is talking about, is just, and what I like to ask clients is, if I can bring you the benefits that you seek, can you take that asset? And they go, well, Ted, you're saying if you can bring me what I told you I wanted, which was passive, 6% cap rate at $1 million. Could I take that? Yes, of course I could take that. And then I say, but it's in North Dakota,
Mm-hmm.
but it's in Aurora, not Lakewood, but it's in, and then they have to decide how important is that geographic thing.
Correct.
But if I bring you the benefits that you seek and you can manage it long distance, and it, you can be a partner and or to
Mhm.
address the issues. Can you close if I bring you the benefits that you seek? And geography is normally not a benefit unless you're managing it and you have to be there.
Hmm.
So it's probably not so much Mexico, it's just across town that we need to get our
Mhm.
clients to be more flexible.
Yep. Understand.
Yeah,
Thank you.
maybe even under property type, right? Yeah, from a
Yeah.
maybe
Product-
residential property to commercial or industrial, or considering
Yeah.
other property types. Yes, I think the main thing he was sharing in that section is the flexibility offers more opportunity. Unpriced exchange meeting, I think this probably coincides with some of the stuff that was said earlier, is he's talking about having an exchange meeting where you take price out of the conversation, so that way you can have a deeper discussion about those wants, needs, and benefits. So I think that was just sort of the gist of that section. And I think it was earlier on too, we talked about, I think Bob had shared, when you take out money as a part of the transaction, you also find out the motivation. You get to the motivation a lot quicker. So even just, I think, if you think about that during your counseling, if there was not a discussion about money, what is the reasons for getting rid of this? I mean, trying to find out if there isn't something else.
Well, when you ask a client, why are you selling? And they say, because I want $300,000,
Hmm.
that's not a good answer. Because it's what are they going to do with the 300? Why do they need 300,000? Or is it just, well, that's the way real estate's done. I give you a listing for 300. I want 300 cash. But unpriced is, what are the benefits that your property is bringing to the marketplace? And what are the benefits that you are seeking that are different than what you have? So if I have a piece of free and clear land east of Denver, 60, 100 miles, and it's non-productive, it might have a cow or two on it, but it's non-productive, 300 acres of ground, no mineral rights, no water rights. And let's price it at 500 an acre. I have no idea if that's right. But 150,000 free and clear piece of land. That property has benefits. It doesn't have cash flow, but it doesn't have management either. So I've done that kind of transaction where somebody wanted out of management,
Mm-hmm.
and my client gave them a piece of land and took over their management issue. It's a storehouse of equity. It's a place to just take a breath. Now, if you need cash flow, you don't take a piece of land. So it's, what are the benefits? So if you showed up at a marketing meeting where no property was priced, all you could see was the value, or no, I'm sorry, they're unpriced. You could see the debt. You need to be able to see the debt and the payments on it. But then you also see the income, see if it's covering the debt. And you see if it has perceived upside, you see where it's located. It just doesn't have a price on it. And that makes people think, I've got this set of benefits in what I'm presenting. And now I'm sitting here watching 8 other people present their property that has different benefits, but I'm not trying to match up dollars.
Mm,
I'm trying to find what's better for me or my client. And it could be a piece of free and clear land in Kiowa, Colorado, or wherever.
Okay, that makes sense.
when they exchange, let's say you exchange a shopping center for a piece of land, that's still a trigger. It's because it's still considered a sale, so therefore it still triggers the tax, right? And both parties will endure the new tax amount. Is that correct? Or
Every sale
yeah,
creates a taxable, a
Event.
potential
Mm.
taxable event. And that taxable event may be a tax savings. You may have a loss on a property, but
Mm.
it's a taxable event, positive or negative.
Mm.
Every exchange creates a taxable event unless you're exchanging equal value and basis for equal value and basis.
Mm.
But if you exchange from a 300 asset to a 600 asset, one of those sides is going to have a taxable event, which is the
Yeah.
guy going from
600.
600 to 300.
Mhm.
And now, how about if you just said at closing, these are both worth 300 because they're unpriced?
Mm.
I don't know who has a taxable event, probably nobody.
Mm.
But let's say the 600 was a piece of land and the 300 was a single family house that produces 1,000 a month cash flow. Is there any reason to not say those are of the same value? I need 1,000 a month. I'll give up my 600 dirt that doesn't do anything and I have to mow the weeds for a free and clear house that gives me 1,000 a month, because that's what I need. That's the benefit I seek.
Mm. Mm. The location I
So-
want. Yeah.
Yeah, so what is the value? Oh, I think they're about equal. Okay, no tax.
Yeah.
I have one question for somebody online. I want to know if she has tickets for the Avalanche game. You're muted. Juanita, you're muted.
Thumbs up.
I don't, not yet.
Oh. Juanita, she loves hockey. This girl sleeps and drinks and breathes hockey.
I do. Not intentionally, but I do. When you have a child who plays really good hockey, it just happens, right?
It built into you.
But happy to see them going to the Stanley Cup, right?
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Absolutely.
But thanks, Ted, for all this. It makes a lot of sense. Thanks for, you know,
Thanks, Ramon.
educating us. Yeah, and Ramon, of course, Ramon.
Yeah. Well, it's having all of you here is what makes it informative, engaging, and yeah, and you know, Larry, there's at times some of those things, and the group could be a thought partner. I had a real quick question for Ted, because the property that the mansion that you're selling in downtown, we've talked about it a few different times. I was curious if that property could be, presumably it's an office space now. Could it be converted back to residential? Have you explored that?
It's half office, half residential now. So I think you could go either way with it.
Okay.
It's mixed use.
And are all the rooms, or is it choppy, or is it, you know, take down a wall here and you have the whole place, the whole mansion again?
I would say it's more choppy than not choppy, but it's got two rentals upstairs, and they're broken off the way they should be. There's one rental downstairs. It's the way it should be. And then there's 6 offices on the main floor that are a little bit choppy.
So,
But let's not go there because that doesn't help everybody on the call, I don't think. Call me after.
okay,
Real quick, I put a link to OCE, that's the California Exchangers Group, into the chat.
awesome. If you want to get that out of there, Larry.
Well, it is in Southern California, I think.
There's one up here, and then it's only Southern California, right?
They do most of their stuff online now.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
I'll have to look into it.
Thanks, Jeremy.
Thanks, Jeremy.
Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, well, thank you all for joining.